Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Thursday, June 13th, 2019. Guys, this is a big show tonight, in my opinion. I've got your typical space weather report, as well as other typical news that we usually share with you folks on our program. There's something that came out tonight, and not a lot of people caught it. Let's get right into it. I'll keep the suspense for later. Solar wind speeds, 467.7 kilometers per second with a density of 8.5. Let's go over to spaceweather.com and check out our sunspot situation. Same as this morning's report, 25 days in a row without sunspots. That gives us now 99 days of 2019, which puts us at 60% of the year. Now remember, 2018 finished with 61% of the time without spots. Let's take a look at our space weather page here at thegrandsolarminimum.com. Very quiet, but we have seen an increase in KP indices as of recently. And that's going to be due to the coronal hole that is throwing solar wind at us right now that was expected between yesterday and today. And as we see, KPs are just below G1 like we had talked about the other day. Solar wind speeds slightly elevated almost to 500 kilometers per second, but not quite there. But again, not expecting anything G1 related. Now let's go take a look at our star in motion here. Let's zoom in. We got a couple small minor coronal holes possibly to deal with. Nothing major there. We look at the eastern limb, guys, and there's just nothing to report. This is a pretty quiet sun. That northern hemisphere coronal hole is expanding a little bit, but not much of concern with that, and that never really is. But yeah, nothing to speak of. Again, 25 straight days without sunspots. And we talked about this a couple broadcasts ago where I believe we could see somewhere around 33, 34, possibly 35 days before we see our next sunspot. And looking at our star information on the furthest eastern limb that we can look at here near the negative 100 region, and we see that there might be a slight activity going on with this spot. It's something we kind of watched a couple shows ago as well, but again, we've seen a lot bigger and brighter areas that come around the eastern bend that don't amount into very much as far as sunspots. So right now we are dealing with a very quiet sun, 0 sunspots for the last 25 days, and just so much to talk about with the weather and the seismic activity. Before we went on the air tonight, there was a 6.0 in Chile. Hours before that, there was a 5.0 that was just north of that region. So a lot of seismic activity, strong earthquakes in South America right now. We also have other things to report that will involve seismicity and volcanism. TSI report right now, guys, this is for May 29th. So this is only moved up. No, we still don't have. This is still the same numbers. So I will have to find a new source for TSI at this point. We have not been able to update it in several, going on 2 weeks almost. Today is the 13th. We're only supposed to have an 8-day delay. So at worst case scenario right now, we should be at least June 5th. So we're about 6-7 days behind on the TSI data. All right, let's go ahead and take a look what's going on around the world. At least 30 dead, 2.2 million affected. This is in China. And this has been because of the heavy rains and the flooding that we've had over southern China over the past couple of days. The rains just started in June 6th, affecting an estimated 2.2 million people in many cities and provinces here in China. Resulting floods left at least 30 people dead and 9 missing. 7 people died in one region and 13 in the Guangdong region as well. A total of 1,747 houses have collapsed and 966 were severely damaged. 30,000 people had to relocate in one particular province. Rain-triggered floods also damaged more than 84,000 crops, according to the Regional Emergency Management Department. Tons of flood footage here to look at. Thankfully, nothing that says not for rebroadcast. Unfortunately, we have crews assisting now at landslides. This video is also a quick recap of what we're talking about here. And of course, Watchers.news giving great statistics almost to the T when it comes to how many houses were affected, population. They're talking about the crop loss that we've had here. Some 1.53 million crops were affected over the last, and 15,000 houses collapsed. And that is down 32% and 79% of that average over the last 5 years, respectively. So in some cases, some of it's up, some of it's down, but nonetheless, more flooding in this region. We talked about this on our live show. Also, the last live show we did, we were talking about Japan as well flooding, but the situation is getting worse. We'll leave the link here at our website. Massive hailstorms hits Slovenia, other parts of Europe, causing major damage. Again, thanks to Watchers.news. Hailstorm, size of hail that was as big as grapefruits, hit parts of Slovenia on June 11, 2019, damaging hundreds of homes and cars. Parts of Germany, Italy, Poland, Romania, Croatia also experienced intense thunderstorms with very large hail and massive hail accumulations this week. So we had the 3-day code amber in UK, and now we have these massive hailstorms with intense thunderstorms. Might I add, we saw 4.3 inches of rain in 2 hours in some parts of this area. I believe this is northern Italy they're talking about here. No, that's Slovenia. That's where they got the 5.5 inches in diameter hail and 4.3 inches of rain in just 2 hours. So Wednesday was very busy across Germany, Croatia, Poland, Romania, Italy. Again, and here is some of these awesome sprites. We did a solar update yesterday about these sprites, and this is in a different part of the country. This is over Slovenia, or I'm sorry, the world, not the country. Slovenia and North Croatia on June 11th. So just the other day, we did a report about how Chinese observers were witnessing some crazy skies with sprites and meteors at times appearing next to each other side by side during the night hours of these captures. So just some amazing images coming from all around the world when it comes to sprites. Hail. Guys, this is not snow, by the way. That is hail in North Italy, June 11th. A lot of our headline news tonight is coming from North Italy too, as far as some of the video footage that we have from that region. Floods especially. Thanks again to Watchers.news. We'll leave the link at our website, thegrandsolarminimum.com. And speaking about the earthquakes today, the two stronger ones we had in Chile, we had Cinnabung, which erupted just a few days ago at 55,000 ash plume. And now we have a strong eruption at Agung with a 30,000 eruption. This eruption took place 1740 on June 12th. The eruptive pulse lasted about 3 minutes and 53 seconds. Ash got as high as 30,000 feet above sea level, drifting southwest, according to data. The aviation code is at a red. The alert remains at a 3 on a scale of 4. So the radius there, the exclusion zone is about 2.5 miles radius. And this was part of the lighting here. Here we go. This is the explosion here at Agung. So some lava flow. And then we have the 30,000 ash plume. 30,000 feet ash plume, I should say. So with the strong earthquakes today, the volcano eruption yesterday, and also the eruption of Cinnabung starting the beginning of this week. And this, in my opinion, all this was kicked off. This was actually Sunday when we had Cinnabung. But this all kicked off, in my opinion, right after that CME, that little filament release that we had, that we talked about on Sunday's live show. And it's been a kind of a wacky week. So I'm starting off the show tonight with record hail storms yesterday, massive hail, more rain, heavy rain, flooding, China, killing people, earthquakes earlier this week in Cleveland, Ohio, which is crazy, 4.0. It happens, but not very often. Major earthquakes today, 6.0, just recently before we went on the air in Chile. And now we're dealing with another volcanic eruption, 30,000 feet. And as I'm talking about this, I'm looking here to the left or to the right of my screen, and the right of yours as well, is the Twitter feed of the Starman. And unfortunately, I cannot get all of that in for you. But I will say that this map is showing us a cold front. And I'll get more into that as well as we get into the show.
Zoom into the window larger, will it let you do it? You could just slide it over and all the others.
It might. That might be better. That's okay. So here we go. We got it there. But that is a current look at our map. We've got some rain moving through here in upstate New York, through central Pennsylvania. Erie, PA is getting a pretty big dose of heavy rain. The Salina is getting some moderate rain showers. Toledo. You guys are experiencing heavy rain as well into parts of Michigan and across the Great Lakes tonight. But look at that blue, guys. The daytime high for today here in upstate New York was 58 degrees. Very chilly out right now. In fact, I spoke with my brother today in Dayton, Ohio, and this morning we had the same temperature at the same time. We both were sitting at 56 degrees earlier this morning at around 9:30, 10 o'clock. So to have these kind of temperatures on June 13th, and like I said, my brother is one of those guys that could care less what's happening around the world, politics or weather or whatever, but even he had a little bit to say about the unfortunateness of the temperatures that we're experiencing right now in June. And the reason why I'm bringing all this up, you can't tell me that all of these volcanic eruptions that is ejecting particulate into the atmosphere is not having some kind of effect on what's happening right now across the planet. Brutal hailstorm. Here's another article covering the hailstorm in Germany. We briefly mentioned watchers also covered this on the 11th. Golf ball to tennis ball size hail damaged numerous cars, boats, and homes in the state of Bavaria, including the capital of Munich. I remember when I first started the research of the grand solar minimum, 3 things were promised: volcanoes, earthquakes, and hail. And all 3 of them have come true. I understand that we live in an age now where social media allows us to see these when they happen at real time. I get that. I totally understand that. Yeah. I understand that. Here is a picture comparing it to apples and bananas and tomatoes. I understand that we have the availability with social media to post real time. But guys, it's not just the fact that there's more cameras and people's. 2008, we were still pretty much a phone dependent society as far as social goes. Many of us have been on social media way before the Facebook. People started with MySpace. That's when we first started sharing videos across the internet. And it just kind of exploded here in the last 6 years. But all of this hail, all the volcanoes, all the earthquakes, all the cloud nucleation, all the moisture. And we continue to see Roy Spencer report lower temperatures than what the global warming crowd is trying to tell us is going to happen because of the high CO2. This is unfortunate, folks. Unfortunately, livestock and some of the animals were injured by the hail. You could see the welts on these animals from these hailstones hitting these animals. That's just very unfortunate. But this is real. Think about this, guys. Think about you being stuck and getting hit like that. I'm not so sure how well we would fare in a hailstorm like that. Hopefully that horse is doing well. Again, we'll leave the link in the description, but lots of world news tonight really showing its ugly head as far as when we talk about grand solar minimum and the effects it brings. Now, I know we've been on the air several times claiming that we think it's possible that solar cycle 25 could possibly be the appetizer for 2030 when solar cycle 26 begins and becomes the grand solar minimum. There's so much information and stuff that it's conflicting sometimes. But tonight we do have a piece for you that's going to really confirm it. And this isn't about making predictions anymore. This is coming from the horse's mouth. But here's a look at more situations that you would see during grand solar minimums, or we are starting to see on the increase. Here we are in northern Italy, tons of landslides and flooding. Mari put together some Twitter feeds for me to show us what's been happening in northern Italy over the past couple of days. This is today, June 13th. And it seems like every time I get on social media, I'm looking at video footage of flooding, landslides. This is probably the weaker side of the flooding that we've seen coming from this region. Here's a repeat of that. Sorry about that, folks. Here is a little bit bigger picture of these waters just rushing down the mountainsides here, the hillsides, causing tons of damage. I mean, this just seems like a daily picture for us from this region. Rapid waters. Here's more big hail video footage. Again, these guys are shoveling hail. This hail is probably at least up to their ankles, if not a little bit deeper. You have to treat that situation as if it's snow removal. Just, again, showing you the size of these hail balls. And I believe last year, this time, we were talking about how bad Europe was getting the hail. And it seems like they're getting the worst of it when it comes to hail. Now, the United States has probably seen an uptick this year in some of the hail damage, but it does feel like that we see more of the larger hailstones coming from Europe. And I don't wish anybody to get hailstones like that. And it's unfortunate that our neighbors over the seas are getting bombarded like this, but also we're starting to see these things happen in our own backyard too. Guys, how cold is it in Australia? Everybody was making a big deal how Queensland, blah, blah, blah. It's not that big of a deal. Let me give you an idea how cold it is down there. Australian crocodile suspected in the Timor-Leste attacks. I think the crocs might know what's coming. I'm no expert, but I believe the croc is an extremely intelligent animal, and I don't think they move around too far to look for food and nesting site unless for good reason. They are territorial to a good extent. They are on the move when cyclones are on the way. But to cross the Timor Sea, there has to be a bigger picture. I could be wrong. Anything is possible. Now, what's she saying? It's cold. These animals are leaving the water and approaching land because of how cold they're getting out of the water to warm up. They're moving. They're migrating away because it's too cold for them right now. That to me, like at first when Mari read this to me the other day, I'm like, okay, and then I kind of like caught me again, and Mari reminded me tonight and read it to me, and it's like, wow, this is kind of a big deal. Al Gore was just in this region talking about global warming. Not only was it snowing that day, snow flurrying, but now we're talking about incidences where wildlife is now moving out of its habitat because it's too cold. I want to thank the Western New York Preppers for giving a shout out to us the other day. Mari is acquainted with the Western New York Preppers, as we are from Buffalo. So once again, thank you guys for giving us a quick shout out. Speaking of shout outs, guys, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.